Welcome to our recording of session 2 of the OPS Tanzu Office Lounge series focusing on Navigator by VMware Pivotal Labs. So this is a service engagement which involves a series of processes, including end-user testing and stakeholder engagement, in order to design a data-derived roadmap to the cloud. Whether your project involves modernizing a single app, a whole portfolio of applications, it's about embracing containers, microservices, CI/CD, etc. We really think you'll find some relevant information presented here. I'm Lindsay Osaka, Tanzu Account Executive for the Ontario Public Service, and I'm joined today by Kate Schuler, Services Account Executive with VMware Pivotal Labs. We appreciate your interest, and we hope you enjoy the following presentation. Overview.
Sure. Thanks so much, Lindsay. And I've had the great pleasure of joining Pivotal Labs because they're very strong in methodology and executing towards results. And we've had fantastic results already within Ontario. And so I just wanted to share this pattern of thinking and working with everybody here. So thank you so much for joining and making time in your day. My background is where I would rather be no matter where I am. It's a cottage up north. So this is the Zoom world. And certainly Navigator can be all be done remotely. And that's de rigueur for us these days. So Pivotal Labs, we can talk a little bit about Pivotal Labs and how are we authorized to talk about modernization. In fact, we're the only global portfolio modernization consultancy that's been built from the ground up that exists. A lot of our competition is doing this kind of work, but we exist just to modernize workloads, transform things into cloud native, move things to new cloud operating models, etc. We have kind of cloud native DNA, and we're there to manage all these things and all the things that we see across the market. You know, very brittle, monolithic apps, very out of date infrastructure, in some cases even code infrastructure, Java versioning, horrendous DevOps metrics, and a remit to really get on with modernization amid this tangle of everything out there, your monoliths, you know, different code bases, how do we work with containers, all these batch cycles, you know, all these things are normal. We see them, and you can imagine inside the government, it's massively confusing. So we have a pattern when we get in with a remit to help, you know, modernize to get started. And maybe this is important, and I added these words because, you know, we do have these things that we believe. Move your apps to Tanzu, you'll see is the first one. You guys already in the OPS, you own an incredible framework called Tanzu. And so this enables, you know, modernization very fast, and we're already working together. It's something that you own, and there are other frameworks that you have. So you could kind of excuse the Tanzu word here. Any framework will work for the concepts you're about to see. We believe, but you have to have one, so we believe you need a framework. And the government has invested in multiple frameworks. We're aware of that in the US. We're very aware of what platforming. There's some alternative multi-cloud, you know, offerings in, as well as Tanzu. So we're on a playing field. But this is what we believe around the process. Plan just enough to start. Don't try and plan it for the world to boil the ocean. Define very hard goals, be outcomes based, and measure your progress against them. Start with one thing that people can wrap their heads around, big enough or small enough, the right size thing. Automate everything you can. So people can do drudgery work, or the machines can help us. So automate everything you're going to do more than once. Building skills by pairing and enabling people to do this on their own. It's I think this is the way to put it best with our enablement strategy. When you're ready to teach your colleagues how to fish, we're done our job, okay? Because we teach you how to fish, but we also teach you how to spread the gospel of that. So it goes beyond just enabling one person. We enable your whole culture. And then, you know, we use real work to inform strategy. Everybody's got a strategy. It's very interesting until you do some real work. So let's get a cycle. And this is what we believe. And so how do we take these things, these beliefs that we have great success with OPS, and how do we start? We start with a navigator. So like any journey, especially a team journey, you know, these modernization journeys, this is why it's called as a journey navigator. And Lindsay mentioned that, because it's a team thing, right? You're going on a journey and you have to plan carefully. If you don't plan and bring the right provisions and set the right direction, what if you go the wrong way? It's very expensive to change directions, you know, weeks down the journey. This is like day one. So get a plan, validate your assumptions, get into some user-centric design already. What's very important is the second bullet here, doing technical spikes. Take your riskiest things and spike it out. If you're an agile person, you know that a spike is a piece of work that you do to validate an assumption. Maybe it's done within a very small time frame, like one sprint or iteration. Boom, you've got that nailed up front, and validate. We'll do that, some of that inside the Navigator as well. We don't wait. So we get started right away on kind of real work and understanding in this cross-functional way. So we get very excited on this, and Navigators, the second last bullet, you're the ones who take this plan and the content. We do it together with you. It's facilitated in workshops online. You get the confidence and to back you up on what you're doing. So I could say if anybody has a question along the way, because I'm saying a lot, you feel free, I think, to post questions in the Q&A. And we'll have a section at the end, maybe with teasing out some questions. Okay, types of Navigators. So, Lindsay, are we good?
Yeah, I was just going to say to the audience there, please feel free to put your questions in the chat.
All right. A Navigator is a best practice, but of course it can be applied to different challenges. And so I like to say that, all Navigators have something in common, but no two Navigators are the same. And in fact, there are some different, flavors kind of that we see coming out of the gate. One that we'll focus a lot on is Portfolio Navigator. It's very useful when you're looking at an entire swath of business functionality that might be cut up into a bunch of data centers and a whole bunch of app stacks. We look at all the apps in that portfolio, whether it's one line of business, one department, whatever, and look at the portfolio. It may be that yields, an application that needs to be looked at, a big monolith that needs to be modernized. Because I'm already working with some folks in the OPS, I won't name any monoliths, but some of their, it's like the Himalayas. There's lots of monoliths inside the OPS. And so, we can dig into one of those and figure out how to get your team modernizing it using cloud native architecture in a de-risky way, not a big bang way. So very interesting, taking a monolith to the cloud. Maybe you're new to the platform. We already talked about platform up front that you're making an investment, and just again, MCS has made the investment. MCS has these platforms, and they can just grow the platform for you to consume it. So they have it. Maybe you're new to Kubernetes, or maybe you're new to platform. So we can do a platform navigator to get your operations people, or maybe more of a DevOps mindset going around technology innovation on the platform side. Delivery is just like, let's get on to delivery, continuous delivery, just get on modernizing, and it's like accelerated replatforming. Maybe, to tell you the truth, this continuous delivery, we might even skip the Navigator, a lot of it, and get on with it, depending how fast you need to go. But we can do a very rapid thing to launch, like a jump starter for continuous delivery. And then we get a lot of questions about a program navigator. So long as you follow the rules of the Navigator of always having, some technical spikes and some, sanity around the amount of scope of planning and imagining, you can do a program navigator that can be very successful because there's a method to how you scale success in rapid modernization. Okay, so the point is lots of different kinds of navigators. What I'm going to do now is walk through kind of how a few of them fit together, and there's a reason why I'm using this slide, and you'll see at the end. So here's somebody, a CIO, an ADM, somebody, I want to modernize my portfolio. Okay, I need to know the best way to move my portfolio to the cloud because there's lots of different ways. I've heard of lots of ways. And I want to go down that road, so I need to do some planning. Maybe I've already done this, but it might have taken months and months. In a few days, we can do this application portfolio navigator. So what does that do? It yields out a prioritized grouping of apps. And I'll walk you through some outputs of the portfolio navigator in a minute. And that lets you go and start replatforming right away. And the benefit of that is some of this replatforming gets to kind of a push button execution. You're off to the races. Even if you have a data center driver, like my data center is closing, you know that thing is like a tank and it's holding water, and these applications are like the water in there. You want to let some out and make the tank lighter. We take them straight to the cloud in a factory way. So we set up a factory to execute, and we do the navigator up front. Sometimes people start with a few little projects, and we'll talk about that scenario, okay? But the Navigator sets you up to understand these groupings so that I can get on with really rapid replatforming and transformations. But invariably, you'll stumble across a monolithic app, something that is very big and that has so many dependencies and is such a tangled, connected, kind of a monster, like a kraken. And that the only way, you can consider moving it is you have to rebuild it while it's still in flight, okay? So just because you could replatform it doesn't mean you should. It's undergoing a lot of business change, and I need to know how to modernize that thing. We have a pattern there, and that's our Navigator. So you can right away see there's two of them here, the Portfolio Navigator and the App Navigator. Oh, then I want to get on with modernizing that big app and kind of doing it in slices in an agile way. We're really good at that. This number 3 here around modern, we love that. But we're not here to talk about that, just the navigators. And then here you might do, and for number 4, you might do a special navigator for scale. But the whole point is here, there's no this implies some kind of a sequence, but in reality, it's a bit of a mishmash. So, what we have is, this is where you guys are. You've actually started really kind of ahead of some navigators. We've done a lot of navigator-like exercises, but you've really pulled us into some app transformations and some replatforming and some kind of execution work. And we know that there's a lot of more work to do to repeat the success we've had. And the Navigator is really a great place to start. And often clients do start here and ask us, and we're being asked. And so that's why we're here to explain this, is we're being asked about helping you guys with these navigators. So this is how they fit together, all right? Let's talk a bit about Portfolio Navigator. So this is all about picking the applications that matter, right? What can you move? That's a very interesting question. You may even have some technical reasons why, like it's expensive or the guys are no longer around to maintain, the team is gone or whatever. And it may be a design, it may be that it has a gory footprint, maybe it itself as an app is creating infrastructure bloat, whatever. Those are some, but is it possible to move it into the cloud and to make it cloud native? Technically possible. That's one set of questioning. The other set of questioning is why, right? Why do you want to move it? When, why? These are the org factors. And so all of those come together in a decisioning model. And then you're going to say, this is the sequence and the funnel through which we're going to put the decisioning and we're going to start moving workloads onto the platform, whichever your platform is. So there's a science to this. And this science comes out in the Portfolio Navigator. It's a pretty simple science. It's like a magic quadrant science, okay? So you create your business value vector, you create your tech value vector, you go through a number of stages of populating the data, and it comes out of the icebox with a backlog, and you turn it into a program plan. Sounds very easy. Believe me, there is a science to it and a series of steps, and there's a bunch of apps and tools that we use so we can actually dig in your code, to do this. So for example, on this tech vector, we might dig into, oh, this is all your apps. So we have a tool that does this. What is the language that it's in, and a number of other factors. Then how cloud ready is it, kind of with scoring that gets generated by automated analysis. And there's a security report and some other report. I don't have all the reports here, but just know that, that those factors get built out that way, and that the business factors get built out by something called a cloud lens, okay, which prioritizes business and tech. And I'll show you this path to production in a second. In the end of the Navigator, all of those applications go into a report, and we understand from a business value outliers perspective, where do they lie? From a technical feasibility perspective, where do they lie? If you can just re-platform something, right, or just rehost it, and the business value, the risk is low, that's something you can just pull the trigger on and execute so fast. But if you have something that really needs, a lot of constant business change or high business risk, it might be way up here in the business value. And you might say, this is actually a rebuild. This is like a really scary one for people, but it may be necessary. But it maybe you just refactor it, and this is very powerful. Just go in and change a few things, change a few hooks, and make it oversimplified. Some code changes, right? The strategic code changes, sometimes separating, front ends from back ends, even though the team is full stack, all kinds of tricks we can do if you're seasoned to get after this quadrant. And a lot of people just focus on these other quadrants. Oh, I can push a button and move everything to the cloud and push a button. It's easy. And it's never that easy. We know that some of these apps are risky and they're chatty and they're all interdependent. So we have a methodology to get through it. The only thing I would say is that part of this that we might look at is to understand the value of doing this for all your apps and to, your target state where you're going to be cloud native. How do you take stuff to prod now, and what does it look like when you're on a platform? So the path to prod might be, very messy today and go through all these stage gates, etc. Whereas we might see clients that now they can just push a button because they have fully integrated DevOps and continuous delivery, and their workloads are like flying off the shelf, into this modern environment on a CI/CD stack. So, we'll quantify the impact of all of that, and that becomes some of the business decisioning as well. That says, where's the value add, because there's a huge value add to that efficiency. Okay, that's it for Portfolio Navigator. How am I doing on time, Lindsay?
We're on track, Case. We've got about 15 minutes left of presenting time. But I thought that was a really good overview of Portfolio Navigator. So I think what you're saying is there's sort of a mix of automated processes and user interviews, but like stakeholder engagement from executive to end user, mapping out the value. And it sounded to me like I was just trying to say it's a mix of automated processes to generate these reports, but also like working elbow to elbow on a role-based basis.
It really is. And maybe some of the techniques of collaboration that we use in terms of infinite whiteboard, like Miro board, and polling, and pairing on generating these things. I'm going to talk about those enablement techniques later, and how we collaborate. And I think that the most important thing that you're saying is absolutely there's a balance, because we've done this before. There's a balance. You can't black box this and have a machine tell you the answer. Nobody's going to trust that. You want an automated way to collect some of this data, right? And then you need a process, by which you're making informed decisions based on data. So when people see this report, it's not like the machine is saying what you have to do. It's just saying we did this work to understand what is going on. And now that we have this funnel and we have this, it's completely backed up. To do it by hand might take weeks and months. Oh, you got to go and look at the rack and the server and count the cables. Or no, we push a button. A lot of it's virtual machines. You push a button, it's done in 30 seconds. Or we run your code base through an app analyzer. It might take 5 minutes and you get the score. Oh, guess what? This thing that we were losing hair about, it's easy peasy. You can move, it's like somewhere between like a 1 and a 3 here. It's like it kind of easy, push a, do some hooks and away you go, like done in a few days. So there's always pleasant surprises when you go through it. Okay, let's talk about the not so pleasant surprise. You hit this giant monolith, okay? So now you're in a monolith, and you can't just kind of throw it on the train tracks. I'll show you a great example of what the client wants to do. So as we talk about this scenario, just for 1 second, okay? So the client has it's a different client. It's a private sector client. They have a giant monolith, okay? And they want to know whether they can re-platform it. And we're like, yeah, we can do that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're like, that's pretty risky. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. Well, it's a huge project and this and that. We're like, no, don't worry about it. We'll do the whole thing like a spike. So we took their whole, we haven't done it, but this is the plan, is just take their entire monolith, stick it on the platform for 5 minutes over here in blue-green and see if it works. What do you mean? Well, that's how we do it. So like radical things, to wrap a monolith and move it without, in parallel while still going. And that's the kind of mind-blowing stuff when you're cloud native, that people don't understand the opportunities. They've been told it's going to be $20 million and 2 years to fix it. It already does these 400 things. And when you go live in the new stack, it has to do the same 400 things. Nobody wants that. Okay. We've all done like for like, nobody wants that. So how do you do it right? So that's what this is for. So we want to figure out what to build, right? Because that's what you're talking about. When you're doing an application navigator, you are rebuilding something. So this is like a build pattern. And how do you do this fast, right? De-risk it, again, look at this, look at the themes, the same as any navigator. Get after the largest assumptions, right? Do the Swift cycle. This is really critical. The Swift cycle is how we do domain-driven design. And, domain-driven design and event storming, these are common. There's books on this, websites and all this. Swift is how we put all that together. And we just do architecture modeling and event-driven, bounded context analysis, identify the microservices or the cloud native design. Even microservices is kind of a passé term, but identify, whether it's serverless, whatever it is, the components that need to be built by doing domain modeling. Build the right thing, get into, product iterations rapidly. And, you guys have trainings as well. And, when we do this right, we'll talk more about enablement later, but when you're ready to teach the next team how to fish, we did our job. Okay, that's how it works. So what is this SWIFT methodology? We go through this, and this is in days. Again, this whole cycle you're about to see here might be 1 week of workshop. Okay, so just imagine that, how fast you're going. It's like 40 hours, and it's facilitated all remote. What are your objectives, and how do you measure them? Understand this system in this analysis, and I'll show you some outputs, a collaborative thing. You may have to go hit this event storm 4 or 5 times during the week to finish it. You may have to fan it out into different groups and have different but it's like, imagine in the old days, we would actually literally put these giant stickies on the wall and everybody step back and go, oh my God, we did this thing. Now it's done on Miro, same thing. And I'll show you when it's really cool how it works. So we do this event storming. You can Google event storming. It's an industry standard. I don't want to talk much about that, but we know how to do it and it's fun. Thin slices of functionality is like finding the business scope. Guess what? Probably API. I don't know, like maybe it is. It's a microservice of some kind. So then we kind of are able to intuit, in notional architecture. We call it Boris the Spider. It's like a rock song, and it's named after the spider, like spider appearance of the graphic. Fill up the backlog. Then we look at this, even if we can in the first 2, let's say it's a 3-week Navigator, we have 3 cycles to produce some code already. We do it. So you get code at the end of this. Now, it's not like I got a binder of requirements, okay? Like in the old days, you would get a big binder from your consultant of the requirements of the waterfall way. So we don't do that. We have a platform and we actually build code. So our delivery is only in the code, even in the Navigator. Some of these things are critical to track along the way, but look, we're already getting to code in the first weeks. And even more importantly, how do we repeat this with cookbooks and patterns? Oh, guess what? The first time through this giant monolith, we found that there were like 7,000 cron jobs in 50 million lines of code. And of these 7,000 cron jobs, 5,000 of them were this one pattern. Oh, really? And so we wrote this thing, went away in a week because we tested that thing and ran it after a week of debugging it. Wow. So those are the patterns we look for and the kind of mind-blowing stuff that this can find to start teasing apart and building, and I'll show you just some assets. So these are actually samples. This was a very large legacy environment. And, how are we going to migrate? This is getting on the platform. This is all about getting on the platform. I can create my own test environments. I have everything, documented in a cookbook. I can connect, et cetera, et cetera. I'm getting to these deliverables of the project, where how many deliverables of APIs and this anti-corruption layer was probably Kafka or something, and security model. So these are the objectives, and then we very quickly, how are we doing? Event storming, like I said, this is what it looks like in the old days. Okay, this is actually assist business events. It's kind of like, to get a little philosophical, the Conway's law, that an organization can follow like bad system and process design. This is like anti-Conway. How does the business event actually flow? And how does the system want to behave, rather than, having some org structure to find what is the sequence of events that actually make up a payment, a registration. Hey, this is Ontario. Maybe you're renewing your driver's license. How does that work? Maybe it's a judicial thing. How does that work? Maybe it's, something in the ministry for the teachers or for the docs. We know what's going on, but in terms of what your service you're delivering, but how does that monolith do it? And what are the events? And in 1 week, maybe you get the answer as to how it works. Nobody knew. Hey, who knew? Look at this. 60 million lines of code on mainframe. We went into this, they told us it was 50 million. We did the event storm, it's 60 million. They were a bit wrong. Okay, this is running health claims processing. It's in the US, but it covers part of what health does here in the province. So each of these events, this was a work of a collaboration of a lot of people, like 40, 50 people had to look at this over the week. They all had to contribute, take it very seriously. It's an evergreen document, and it captures and models what needs to be built to now slicing away. Look at clusters. These hot pink clusters can be sliced into, a buildable piece that can stay outside. We fake it out with an anti-corruption layer, and we're on our way to modernization and monolith. This is what the architecture looks like, the new architecture. So there's the event storming. There's the new architecture, microservices-based architecture. This is a list of the scope that came out, the nodes that came out of this architecture, the buildable entities to support this architecture. We do something very fast in a snap. And then somebody made a joke, yeah, it's a snap, and it's not analysis paralysis. So not only is it a snap, snap is its own acronym. That's just pivotal jokes. Event storming, yeah, I know, sorry, Lindsay, it's a pivotal guys. But here you can see how it works, right? This is the smaller one. What is in this event? Who are the actors and what are they doing? Oh, here's the bounded context of these. Now you can do this set very small. So big or small, the point is these exercises translate big or small. Okay, that's it. Now look, at the end of all this, what do you have? You have little patterns for all this and then some code, and you can move so fast with a Navigator, and we can actually start bolting on, accelerate your team and get them going. But I'll talk about that. I got to go really fast. Lindsay will kill me if I skip Kubernetes platform Navigator. So look, this application platform, whatever your platform is like, it's even like a career, okay, for people. And it's like any career, it needs a strong base. And so the base needs to be strong. And so, look, if you don't have the Kubernetes brick in your platform, it needs to be in there. We can put that in. But you may not know how to use the platform at all. And that might just be one brick of it. And in your organization, you're still at kind of the base. Maybe you're operating it. Talk to guys at MGCS. Talk to the other folks around Ontario that are using this. But if you're looking at how to support, and this Navigator may be most of use for MGCS. It depends how you're operating with them. Or if you have some kind of center of excellence, like how do we go from just installing it, right, to making sure all of these things are in place? Storage, the networking, sprouting, ability, these are kind of foundational to adoption. And then you have to say who's using it, what's the developer workflow, the enhancements, a structured path to go through this. And it's, as I said, though, by itself, this does not make your platform. This needs to be part of the base of your platform. So I'm very happy to talk about this. And maybe I should add a teaser question at the end, which is, do you have a platform question? Because I'm more focused on the portfolio stuff and app stuff. But anyway, next one, program stuff is cool. Okay, Program Navigator. I think I'm almost out of time. This is what it looks like at scale. We actually help organizations do this at scale. Like you have 1,000 people, 10,000 people, tier 1 banks, large crown corporations, major Fortune 500 companies that say, look, we need to transform our entire organization after some early wins, and we want your help. Okay, so that was a practice that grew over time. We didn't set out to be in that business, but we got into it of helping our clients scale this. And so, where are you on this journey? And there's a lot of discussion. One department in the OPS or one division or group within the OPS maybe much farther along one of these areas in this curve and not the others. You can see Navigators kind of at the beginning, but you might do Navigators along the way. So this is like, you have to do these things, program and measurement, be able to execute at scale, educate your people, right? This is what it looks like when we enabled somebody. This is, again, a public sector. I'll get to a private, this is private. I'll get to a public sector example in a minute, I think. This was a team that wants to go fast with replatforming. It used to take them 11 days to make an existing service run on the cloud that they had chosen. 5 minutes. It used to take 5 days to get their pipeline replicated, right? To 2 hours. They're kind of ashamed. They think it should be shorter. The stability, it was 120 minutes to get a repair up. It's automated because this incident is auto failover with the platform. Security, 36 hours to set up the security provisioning tags for the phone. So in other words, who's allowed to look at this? And you had to go through and all the certs were accurate. It took days, like 4 business days, or that they work around the clock for a couple of days. It's like included, it's automated. And the last one that's really cool, enablement cookbooks. This is in week 7 of a project. Week 6, they did the first project. The next project was supposed to be twice as long. They did it all in 1 week. Why? Because of this last column where they had the cookbooks. They took their work that what they thought was bigger and they did it in 1 week. 1/6 the size of the other one. And how do we do that? We pair with it with our clients on everything. And there's this whole I do, you do, we do, we pair with you. Even in the Navigator, we'll pair with you. So we'll be looking at assets together, looking at code together, taking some of this XP extreme programming thinking and doing extreme delivery with all the roles, right? So that the whole process is automated and feeding it in. And you'll see that, you know, how rapidly and how much higher quality there is when two people are looking at the code and getting it done, rather than each person off in a corner, not knowing what they're doing with two different pieces of code. Believe me, it goes a lot faster. So everyone's like, oh, two people, it doesn't work. They don't understand how it works, the level of craftsmanship and quality, but the focus of pair skills on any deliverable, code or anything. Two people working on a deck will make it better than one person any day, same as code. So, you know, we've done it before. This is kind of just a better example. This is taking something live in modernization. You know, stuff has been going live. Maybe you didn't know stuff has been going live. You're using these techniques, and in some cases, people could be going faster. But in some cases, you know, we've done some of this already, and this is kind of feedback where we went through a bunch of, you know, this enablement iterations and rapid iterations. You know, we moved our operations away from Pivotal, so now they do that on their own. So they take care of themselves on this, and you know how many environments were set up and all the stories and put. So this is kind of like the team celebrating something they did. Okay, but and then I kind of get this. Maybe there's thoughts left for questions, or maybe we're out of time. And I would ask, actually, there is something here on platform, which is tool, but you know, pop quiz. This is my joke pop quiz for the end. So if you have a portfolio in mind, the pop quiz is, what's the answer? Aha, a portfolio navigator. All right, application in mind, pop quiz says clearly the monolith pattern, right? The application navigator. So, but those might not be your focus. And so it's a joke on my focus in the deck. Maybe your focus is on people, on tools. Maybe you do have some apps in mind. Maybe you've got this big scary monolith, you know, you want to know where to get started. If you know exactly what you want to do and you just want us to bolt on and help go faster, yes, we are one of a number of people that can help with that. But this navigator set, these tools around portfolio, platform navigators, program navigators to do it. We're the only firm in the world that exists with a practice around portfolio modernization to do these navigators. And we're already, you know, here doing work and enabling partners and all other people you're working with doing this stuff here at the OPS. So it's more awareness than anything else. And then there could be a next step that if you have any of these things in mind, that's really what the next step would be all about. So Lindsay, did we get any questions from folks, or were they shy?
I don't see anything in the chat. Please feel free to go ahead and post your question. In case we've got about 10 minutes left. So just wanted to thank you for this. This has been a really good high-level strategic conversation around our Navigator services. I thought you did a good job explaining kind of this whole mentality that we have around Pivotal Labs in 2020, being more flexible, being able to meet an application or a team or an organization where they are, right? So we're not just sort of squishing everyone into the same box. Right. But just we have a few minutes left. I wanted to know, is there anything that in a nutshell people should think about when they think about Navigator by Pivotal Labs?
Well, the main thing is, you know, you have to have the will to actually get something done. If you're just kind of, you know, I hate to say it, if you're just kind of pencil pushing and you know, casting about and you want some kind of analysis paralysis, that we're the wrong team. You really want to get something done and it's action oriented, get the decision makers. And like usually the ideal person is they have a budget, they have a mandate, they need help. And the navigator is like the proven way to get their team going on it rather than another consultant in the corner going off and doing it. So, you know, sometimes the easiest place is, where did you already try once? Maybe you do need a navigator. So that's a kind of a hidden, like, look for that. Look where there's a danger or a trouble, and maybe we can come and help where there was trouble. If it's on a big app, especially. On the portfolio side, I would say the hidden gem in all of this is like your target operating model, because, you know, we can define a target operating model, including a platform and everything else, that says, oh, guess what? Our DevOps, we got these magic numbers. Not only are we, you know, rapidly modernizing, when we say modern, we mean we're seeing these DevOps outputs. So the target operating model sets the OKRs around those outputs, and that laser focuses the team on kind of the efficiencies of the tooling. And, you know, so target operating, and then, you know, the surprising thing, the nice thing is that MGCS is already part of that and already supporting you. So as soon as you get into it, you start to realize how fast you can go. That chunks of your target operating model are already all in before you, and you just need to kind of decide to go fast. And then you know, scale. Not everybody on this call might be responsible for a whole scale initiative. If they are, would love to hear from them around program and scaling and enablement and all that. Usually, like platform, portfolio, app is a great place to start, but sometimes, you know, some audience member might be responsible for all of that, and that's also very interesting, you know, and unique. So, what can I say? People love it. You know, I'll give you some feedback. The clients say after one day of a Navigator or the 1 week of the Navigator and getting all this exercise, they're like, first of all, we couldn't have done this without the exercise because we didn't know how to do all of that cycle of Swift and the domain driven design. And, you know, thank you. And they learned and they use it on other things. So then we even have courses on that we teach online. And then the other thing that they say is, how did you get done so much? So the one client said you did more in 1 day than the last. They had another company in. They said you did more in 1 day. Those guys did all year. So, you know, that's a feedback because it's just so practical. So, you know, kind of give it a try. And so the next step. So I'm going to jump because we only have a minute, right? So wouldn't the next step people need to know? So just to get a taste of kind of what this works like and how we facilitate. Pre-Navigator, we'll set up a session and we'll come in and do something for you. So what is the app or the portfolio? What is the platform? You know, what are your goals for this? And how do you want to measure it? Start talking to them about this. What is your path to prod? And kind of tease out some of this. We're happy to come in. We're not here selling anything. We're happy to come in and kind of understand. You think it's a fit? You have a platform, you have a portfolio, you have an app in mind, you have a transformation program in mind. Yeah, man, bring it in. And so we'll come, we'll do it. So bring it to the discovery workshop. And then we'll say, this is a great fit based on this. And we'll tailor the navigators. Because as I said, no two navigators are the same. Oh, last thing, if you're interested in this, Lindsay, where people always get me, they're like, oh, please send me the output of that's just like this. Because they think they know what it's going to be like. And so you have to tell them no two are the same, and we can show them I can show anybody that's interested a giant walkthrough of all real Navigator outputs that have been scrubbed and our teams, you know, put into a best outputs of, and people can see exactly what I'm talking about. So a lot of the things that I showed here were actually real assets from work projects, not marketing slides. And I can show you tons more.
Yeah.
So,
is that publicly available?
So it's not publicly available. It's by Case Schuler appointment only.
Got it. I was going to say we could build that into our follow-up, but
it's really what I could do. What I would want to do is you know, even on a phone call before the discovery workshop, probably I would want to screen share somebody and be able to flash. I can't release it out, but I can certainly you know, present it in a format, something like what we're doing today. Even I could do anyway. So this really would be the next stop for everybody here. If we want to work together, or you're interested in a Navigator, start with this little discovery workshop, 2 to 4 hours, you know, and that's it. So that's the end of
So as the next step, please feel free to reach out to Case or myself if you are interested in learning more about the Navigator service engagement and how it could potentially help optimize your current processes, as well as drastically accelerate your digital service delivery objectives. Our contact information is here, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.